So now is the time to sit in meditation briefly. When we talk about training to be a upajjhaya, a preceptor, once one is a preceptor, then when the ordination candidate, which we call the Naga, comes to ask for ordination, the preceptor must teach them first. What follows is the teaching of my friend Venerable Dhamma Pitaka from Pra-Jetupon Monastery. He would teach others in this way. The Naga, the ordination candidate, says that they want to ordain in the Buddha Sasana. So one plants faith or sattha, belief in the Buddha, the founder of the Sasana, the dispensation, and who gave permission for individuals to come ordain. In this time, in the beginning, we plant faith, sattha, belief. In what way? One must study to know and understand, to become familiar with the qualities that the Buddha has. What goodness does the Buddha have? We learn about this in the beginning. The fully self-awakened Buddha has goodness that is vast, unbounded, unending. If we abbreviate this goodness, we start with wisdom, panya, of the Buddha. The Buddha has wisdom to know and see things that should be known and seen. The wisdom to know things completely, wisdom that is sagacious and penetrative, truly excellent, wisdom to know what is beneficial and what is harmful, to know what is useful and what is not. And importantly, the Buddha knows and sees clearly the Four Noble Truths of suffering, the origin of suffering, the ending of suffering, and the path to the ending of suffering. This is something the Buddha knows for himself. He had no one to teach or instruct him. He knew and saw clearly for himself. This is called the quality of wisdom. And the fully self-awakened Buddha abandoned that which should be abandoned, that which is harmful, which is to say the root of all evil, lobha, dosa, moha, or greed, aversion, and delusion. This is what we call the asava kilesas, the outflows of defilement that make the hearts of all beings low and unhappy. The Lord Buddha abandoned all outflows of defilement fully and completely. The Buddha was completely prepared to uproot the kilesas that the mind had been associating and training with for a long time. The Buddha was ready and complete with all the various essential qualities. He abandoned all defilement and abandoned it fully. This is called the quality of purity. And when the Buddha abandoned his defilements, he didn't just seek his own happiness, but he has a heart of loving kindness and compassion, metta and karuna, for all beings. Because all beings have just suffering in the fires of defilement, the fires of suffering. The fires of kilesa burn all beings in the heat of suffering. So the fully self-awakened Buddha taught the Dhamma to extinguish this suffering and heat of the fires of kilesa. We see fire that burns from wood, for instance the fires that can burn a building and a house, but the fires of kilesa burn in the hearts of all beings. The Buddha has a compassion, the great compassion, to teach beings to practice, to be able to abandon the fires of defilement, even if it's difficult. The Buddha saw that it would be difficult, it could be tiresome to teach this and troublesome, and still he taught for all those 45 years. This is the quality of great compassion. The Lord Buddha has these three qualities. The Lord Buddha is the one who knows, the awakened one, the joyful one, the one who knows rightly and correctly. When the Buddha knows rightly like this, having loving kindness and compassion, having sympathy for all beings, we see the Buddha had loving kindness and compassion to teach for all 45 years. And these Dhamma teachings of the Buddha we call the pariyatti Dhamma, that which we need to study, learn, and memorize, to study, to understand the meaning, to understand what the Buddha taught. So in this body of knowledge of pariyatti Dhamma, What points of practice are there? There is dana, giving, and the benefits of giving. There is sila, virtue, and the benefits of virtue. There is bhavana, mental cultivation, training the mind in samadhi, or collectedness, and the benefits of mental cultivation and collectedness. This brings about the wisdom to know and see clearly. For short, we call this sila, samadhi, and panya, or virtue, collectedness, and wisdom. So we care for our behavior of body and speech to make them pure. We train the mind to focus on one object, to not get involved with low mind states and unhappiness, but instead to practice and train in the Dhamma, and at first not to fall into the coarse defilements. And what are the coarse defilements? There's behavior of body and speech, which is covered under virtue, the 5 precepts or the 8 precepts. We train the mind to make the mind peaceful and still in samadhi through the use of a kammatthana, a meditation object, to care for the mind, to make the mind pure so that the 5 hindrances do not enter. This is called samadhi. Once one has samadhi, then one can see rightly, see straight. One can understand and see clearly according to the Dhamma teachings of the Lord Buddha, which is to say the gaining of wisdom. This is the path of sila, samadhi, and panya. This is Dhamma practice. One who practices Dhamma practices to improve in behavior of body, speech, and mind. One trains one's views to follow the points of practice. And to know the points of practice, to do the practice following sila, samadhi, and panya in order to realize purity, magga, phala, and nibbana, the paths, fruits, and unbinding. This path, fruit, and nibbana we call the pativedhi Dhamma, insight knowledge. These are qualities of one who practices to know and see clearly at all times, with the wisdom to see and know for themselves, a clear seeing that arises outside of time, irrespective of time. This is that which invites one to come and see, and is something one must know and see for oneself. So this pariyatti, patipada, and pativedhi, the theory, the practice, and insight, these 3 types we call in short the holy Dhamma. Through upholding the Dhamma prevents us from falling into lower states, not falling into suffering, difficulty, not to be evil, but to instead be stable in goodness. It protects us from falling into woeful states and planes of suffering. All of us, all who listen to the Dhamma of the Lord Buddha, we have our hearts set on practicing. We have faith, belief, inspiration, and we have the firm intent to follow the path of virtue, collectedness, and wisdom, to be able to make the mind fully and completely pure, to abandon the defilements, to fully and totally abandon the greed, aversion, and delusion that are found in our inborn traits. If one abandons the defilements partially, then one realizes stream entry, one's returnership, non-returnership, or with the complete abandonment, then one realizes arahantship. These 4 types we call the Sāvaka, disciples of the fully self-awakened Buddha. This is a group, a community that practices equally in terms of virtue and view. This is the Sangha. These 3, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, are the most important in the Buddha Sasana, the Buddha's dispensation. So one who comes to ask to ordain must set their heart on taking this triple gem as their refuge, to place their respect with the triple gem, and make this a solid bond in their heart, to make it the highest and foremost. The Naga, the Ordainee, must be intent and recite, I ask the Buddha to be my refuge with all my respect and faith, and with faith in the Dhamma and Sangha to be my refuge, my place of recollection. One recites this once, twice, 3 times, to make it firm and solidly bonded to the heart. This is the cause for the Ordainee to have growth and prosperity. And how do we bring our hearts to realize being a disciple of the Buddha, a Sāvaka Sangha, an awakened disciple? One must study a meditation object following one's teacher. We are taught the method to develop samadhi, the beginning point for monks and novices. We start by reciting in Pali, and you repeat after me. Kesa, Loma, Naga, Danta, Tacho. This is repeating in forward order. Now we repeat in reverse order. Tacho, Danta, Naga, Loma, Kesa. You follow this until you become skilled and proficient, adroit and agile in this. Kesa, Loma, Naga, Danta, Tacho, Tacho, Danta, Naga, Loma, Kesa. Memorize this to bring it to enter your heart. Recite these as meditation mantras, whether sitting, walking, standing, or lying down. This is meditating with a meditation word to bring the mind to samadhi. Study and learn the meaning of this. Kesa means hair of the head, the strands that grow out of the top of the head, from the forehead to the bottom of the neck, to the ears on both sides. The hair is nourished by the blood so that the hair can grow and live. Loma is body hair, which is similar. It is all the strands of hair on the body except for the head hair. Body hair grows on various body parts except the palms of the hands and soles of the feet. That is what we call body hair. Naga are nails, which are hard and scale-like, which grow on the hands and feet. In each location they are called nails. Danta are the bones that come as individual pieces in rows. They grow on the sides, top and bottom, and are used to chew food, and we call them teeth. Tacho is the skin, that which wraps and covers the body from the head to the feet. This is what we call skin. When we know these 5 things already, then how do we contemplate them in order for them to be a holy meditation object, a pra-kammatthana? This word pra means that which is supreme, exalted, noble, and holy. Kammatthana means a place of work. If we contemplate and think that these 5 things are good, beautiful, attractive, pleasing, satisfying, then this is not a kammatthana. This is what gives rise to lust, to liking, to attraction, to agitation, to aggravating greed, aversion, and delusion. These are defilements that are here already, and that would be increasing them even more. Therefore, one contemplates to eliminate the cause for lust, in order for liking not to arise. This is the cause that excites and stirs up the defilements. One must contemplate that which has already arisen in order for it not to increase or get stronger, to subdue lust through the use of the kammatthana, the meditation object. One contemplates to see it as not beautiful, not attractive, not pleasing, not satisfying. One sees it as something unclean and foul, something whose nature is to be unclean, that it's normal for it to be dirty or unattractive according to reality. This is a noble kammatthana, a method to bring the mind to samadhi, peace and collectedness. Contemplating in this way is the cause that prevents unarisen lust from arising. It stops unarisen liking from arising, and it suppresses lust that has arisen. This is a method to quell the defilements and all of our inborn traits to become more peaceful. Contemplate in an abbreviated fashion like this, using these objects to see them as unclean and foul. How should you contemplate them? Contemplate the color, the shape, and the smell in these 5 objects that arise there. What are the characteristics of the color, shape, and smell of these 5? What are they like, and from what do they arise? Contemplate like this. See each and all of these objects as having color that is not beautiful, shape that is not attractive, not lovely, and smell that is unclean and foul. They all arise and live, being soaked in blood and lymph. If a strand of hair falls into a pot of curry, then that pot of curry loses its value. If hair falls into clean water, then that water becomes dirty. Clean water goes into the mouth and touches the teeth, thereby becoming unclean. Expensive clothing, when we put it on the body, in no long time, having covered the skin, it becomes dirty. The nails are the same, body hair is the same, but delusion tells us that these body parts are clean. So we need to study the holy meditation object to eliminate lust, the defilement of raga, to be able to eliminate the defilement of delight. So having studied these kamatana already, one takes these triple robes dyed in the color of jackfruit wood, according to the permission given by the fully self-awakened Buddha. One covers the body with the robes in the proper and appropriate way. Then one comes to request the precepts and requests the triple refuge. This is next. This completes one aspect of teaching the Ordainee, the Naga. One who comes to ordain must study these noble kamatana. If the preceptor does not give the kamatana, this is an offense in the monastic discipline of the Vinaya. And if we are not to the point of ordaining, then we can study these first. May you all grow in blessings.